Hello, welcome to Consciously Unbiased LinkedIn Live. I'm Ashish Kaushal, the founder of Consciously Unbiased and Higher Talent, a diverse staffing firm. Today's topic I'm really excited about. It's actually very personal to me as well. It's In Search of the American Dream, Stories of Belonging. We have four amazing guests, actually five amazing guests. Trishan, Global Head of Client Relations for Pontoon Solution. Rue, Variant Scientist at LabCorp Women's Health. Mebs, Senior Advisory Solution Consultant from ServiceNow. Andrei, Diversity and Inclusion Lead from United Nations. And Laura from Talent and Development for D&I for Twitter. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for having us, Ash.
Absolutely. Laura, I'd like to start with you. If you could talk about who you are and why, or what the American Dream means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you also for having us here today. I'm so thrilled to be with all of you. My name is Laura Esprio. I'm the founder of the Latinas Network here in Seattle, which aims to connect Latinas with a community of other like-minded Latinas and allies. And I also lead our global talent development efforts focused on underrepresented talent at Twitter, which is pretty aligned with, my passion and my pro bono life. So I'm thrilled to be here. I currently live in Seattle, Washington, but I was born and raised in Mexico, and I'm a Latina working mom as well. And I call myself a relentless change maker. Why not? And, the American dreams mean so much to me. And it means actually, it means perspective and a change of narrative. And I'm saying that because when I moved from Mexico to the US, I had to embrace two new identities. I didn't even know I was a woman of color, right? Because in my country, I didn't have a color. So I had to embrace being a woman of color and an immigrant, two new identities. And with that, of course, some unique challenges. As for example, I couldn't work at that moment, right? Or my credentials weren't taken seriously because they didn't come from US. So that sort of thing put some challenges for me as I look to move forward in my career. And so I think that's what I keep saying. You don't know the privilege that you have until you face different circumstances, and you actually need to kind of change that perspective and actually understand that when you have options, it means that you are privileged.
Okay, welcome. I mean, these are a lot of things to think about, especially, I actually honestly haven't really thought about the fact that when you come here, your education may not be understood or recognized, or your experiences. And I think that's super important to remember that, and sort of we overcome that bias around that. Rue, I'd love to hear your story and why the American dream is important to you. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity to share my story with others who may benefit from hearing the story. My name is Rue Visidagama. I am a variant scientist at LabCorp's Women's Health. What do I do on a daily basis? I analyze DNA sequences from patients with a lot of different diseases. Regardless of where we come from, we all have one genome. But in that DNA, there can be small differences that can vary from person to person. And some of those variations can alter the normal function of a gene and cause a disease. So my day job is to evaluate those changes and provide professional judgment if a certain change is likely to cause a disease or not. In the context of the American dream, for me, that would be going to a place I would reach my maximum potential as an individual and becoming the best scientist I could possibly be. And to me, that happened to be in the United States of America.
Welcome. Mebs, you're next.
I'm next? Oh, okay. Following two great women here. So my name is Mebs Kassam, and I'm a Senior Advisory Solution Consultant at ServiceNow. What does that mean? So basically, ServiceNow is a cloud software platform, and a Senior Advisory Solution Consultant is you could think of it as a technical sales account executive, where I team up with a licensed or a licensed account executive who is selling licenses for our software, and team up from our technical side to make sure that we are meeting the customer's business outcomes, addressing their problems and business needs, and enabling whatever they're trying to achieve as part of their corporate strategy. For me, what is America is the land of opportunity. So the American dream means doing whatever it takes to achieve the dreams and aspirations I had set for myself in this land of opportunity, both career-wise and for my family.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. We're honored to have you. Adriana, sorry.
Yes. Hi.
Hi,
how are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Andrei Naboto. I am from Argentina. So I am a Latina living the American dream as an international civil servant because I work at the United Nations. So it's very interesting for me because I have been living in New York for 20 years. I grew up in Argentina in Buenos Aires. I lived in Germany for a long time. I worked and I studied there. And I also live in South Africa, 1993, when Mandela got elected. So it was a little at the end of apartheid. That's when I decided that I wanted to work at the UN to make a difference in this world. So I studied political science and languages. And then I literally came to New York without speaking English. And I went to the UN and I said, I'm going to work in the UN. And people were saying, like, how are you going to do it? You don't even speak English. No problem. I have a master's degree in 3 languages. I speak Italian, German, English. I'm going to work at the UN. So I started sending faxes. I started contacting anybody, like making phone calls, faxes, until someone contact me from the UN saying, stop sending the fax. We got your application. We get it many, many times, so stop it. And say, great, do you have 10 minutes? Can I come to your office and meet you in person? Because I live next door. And then she was like, oh my God, I never met somebody so genuine. So, and I made it. I barely spoke English. I got a job that I had to, my German was excellent and my Spanish was excellent. So I managed to get a job that I had to speak German and Spanish. And yeah, and I was studying at night ESL in Hunter College. And I was working as a babysitter. And then I made it in the UN. And now I'm head for diversity and inclusion. I reinvented myself. I have 3 beautiful kids. I'm a house owner. I have the dog. I'm like really living the American dream and started by zero. And also I have the comparison of Latin America, the comparison on Europe, right? After 2 weeks in New York, I felt like a fish in the water without even speaking the languages. Something that I never felt in Germany. I never, and until today. Until 12 years of living there, having 3 master's degrees, studying there, speaking the language, I've never felt welcome. And really in New York, I felt the American dream. In fact, I had no idea about the American society because what brought me in was the UN, right? So it was so funny because I had a farewell party in Germany. My Spaniard friend came and wrote to me, go to New York and live the American dream. And I had no idea. So I said, what is the American dream? I said, you go to America, you have a job, you have a career, you make lots of money, you buy a house, you get married, you have kids, you get a golden retriever, and you live the American dream. So yeah, so I have a black lab, but yes, so yes, that's the American dream. So it was so funny, and I said, that sounds great. I like that. So it was very funny. So yeah, the American dream is to work hard and get reward for that, right? Everybody has a chance, regardless of where you come from, the family of origin, right? Your social economic background, right? You can reinvent yourself. In Europe, is inexplicable. First, you can have the education, everything, but if you don't have the family you come from or the things, it's like you're talking a totally different languages. So really, really living the American dreams is like everybody has a chance, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of where you come from. And then also what Americans I love is like Americans, they are totally used to the accents, especially New Yorkers. Even if they don't understand you, they are super like open-minded. They talk to you. they are interested in knowing where you come from. It's like everybody's welcome and everybody's a New Yorker, right? So this is part of
Absolutely.
the American dream that I love. And then I talk a lot, of course. So I
Well,
get,
welcome. We're
I
excited
go,
to
I
have
go on
you.
the street. Everybody talks to you, and they tell you their life stories. It's like everybody tells you the American dream they had, or their life stories, and everybody shares. And
Yeah.
you are one of them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Trishan, I'd love to have your story too. Tell me about your journey and your what American dream means to you.
Sure. So first of all, guys, there might be some background noise. There's a bit of construction going on, so please forgive me in advance. Hi, everyone. My name is Trishan Pires, and I work for a company called Ponton Solutions. I'm in the HR world, and I specialize in building and executing solutions comprising of D&I goals and basically around people. I'm Sri Lankan. I'm born Sri Lankan. I lived there for most of my life, and I came to the U.S. in 2007. I came here for my studies and never left. Right, so there's some background noise going on. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So I came here in 2007. Just as many other students out there, did the whole F1 visa and H1Bs, and basically with one goal, right? It's basically getting a piece of America, making it mine, right? So what is the American dream to me? Ash, I would tweak it a little bit. I think the dream is yours. It's not the American dream, it's your dream. But what America gives is the opportunity to really, get there, right? The tools and the resources, and help you get to where you want to be. So, I've been blessed, I've been privileged to, be where I am. And it's because of the great tools, resources, and the people of America that has blessed me. So,
it's interesting that you say that. I don't know if it's necessarily the American dream. I think everyone has a dream to have a better life, right? It's a world
yeah.
dream. I think what the American dream signifies is the structure and the support that you have to sort of realize your potential, right? The infrastructure is there, right? There's not so many barriers to stop you from being who you are and achieving where you want to go. And to me, that's more of the American dream than, who's not to say that I live in Africa and I want to have a better life too. Like it's not
exactly
it's just a US based dream,
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Mebs, you're of Indian descent, raised in
Mm-hmm.
Africa, went to school in Canada, worked in the US for more than 20 years. What do you think the biggest lesson is in living in a multicultural life? If someone were on the same journey as you are in your life and career, what would you tell them looking back?
Sure. So like you said, I'm of Indian descent, born and raised in Africa. I heard you reference Africa a minute ago. After I completed high school, I left to attend college in Canada. There's a whole backstory to that, which will chew up the whole hour, so we won't talk about that. But after I settled in Canada for many years after graduation, I decided that I wanted to stay there. It was a better future for me to stay in Canada versus return back to Africa. And so I got married, started a family there. And then, as part of my journey, even Trishan mentioned, it's your dream, it's my dream, and what I wanted to make of it. So I always wanted, as part of my career plan and life experience, to work and live in America. And I was able to do that by coming here 21 years ago. So, this journey that I'm describing is mine and mine alone, because my parents actually stayed in Africa until, they passed. So they were not able to come here. But, as many people can imagine, based on what I'm describing about my life's journey, crossing different continents and going to different countries, it's a very daunting experience, but very enriching at the same time, because it teaches you a lot. Trust me when I say that I had to grow up in a hurry, being able to walk through this life's journey. I'll talk about my challenges and hurdles a little later, and then talk about some of the lessons that I'd impart or share with everybody as part of that experience.
Okay, great. I love that. Ruby, the data shows that women are underrepresented in fields such as STEM and technology. What advice for professionals do you have when they're the only one in the room? And what can we do to empower other immigrants women immigrants specifically, striving for success in the STEM field?
Sure. So first, I would say you have to be the change you want to see. You may be NF1 with a unique cultural and family background. Every person's hurdles are going to be unique. And I would say two things. You can reach out to people who have similar experiences. For me, in that case, I would say connecting with the International Students Office. There are other students who may be going through similar situations where you can have a leaning shoulder, a group of people who understand some of those struggles. But the question is, what if you are that NF1 and you're struggling on your own? You really have to look back to your own experiences and remind yourself that you've come this far. For example, whether you're in college or graduate program, you jumped that hurdle of coming from where you are to getting accepted into a college program and coming to the country. So remind yourself and draw the strength to persevere through your struggles by reminding yourself you've done it before and you can get through.
Absolutely. I love that. Those are great points. And Chajan, you and I have done a lot around the labor force. And let's talk about immigration and HR. With your work in HR and the news around the labor shortage, what role can immigration play in the workforce?
Look, I think immigration feeds into multiple areas, right, within the HR world. The first one being D&I, right? I mean, Adriana talks about, how she works for the United Nations. I think every organization needs to be the United Nations, right? It promotes promotes different ideas, and it really brings that additional insights to a team. So from a D&I perspective, it's beyond just race, color. Organizations really need to see how you can bring in talent from elsewhere. And if you look at a global organization, right, let's just take a simple example, right? You're not going to see a lot of just local talent. You're going to see a lot of immigrants. You're going to see a lot of folks from different countries. I mean, I can tell you right now, I'm in a team meeting here in Jacksonville. We have a pontoon team meeting going on, and we have a team of 15 people, probably 3 Americans. Everyone else is from a different country. And a lot of organizations, you're going to see that. The other thing that I will say is, I read somewhere last week that, just this year alone, there are over 35,000 immigrants, right? Coming in as refugees, coming in as students. That definitely does have an impact on the economy and the jobs as well, right? Right now, there's a huge gap in terms of talent, right? And I do see that, immigrants will definitely have that opportunity to add and minimize that gap, right? We, in our world, Ash, we constantly talk about reskilling and upskilling, within the staffing world. And, I think there's opportunities for these folks, who are chasing the American dream, if you will, right? To really help reduce the gap in terms of jobs, and really help themselves be an asset and contribute to the economy. So, I mean, we can spend probably hours and hours talking about this, but there's definitely an impact. I know organizations are always on the lookout for great talent, regardless of whether you're an immigrant or you're an American, if you will. If you can find that talent, definitely, they'll definitely have a place in these organizations here in the U.S. I mean, look at the folks on this call, right? We're all immigrants working for major organizations, right?
Yeah.
So, no, there's definitely a big impact.
That's great. I mean, I also think like companies, if they want to win the war on talent, they're gonna have to invite all the talent to participate, right? You can't really be discriminatory towards one sector or another. And I think honestly, from a corporation standpoint, they've been really active in trying to change the policies around immigration to actually make it easier and better, because they realize that they need the talent. And if you think about unemployment 4% right now, right? And that doesn't mean that there's too many people taking people's jobs. There's not enough people to take jobs, right? And so there's really no issue around that. And so I think that perception needs to kind of go away too. Laura, you had spearheaded Lean in Circles network focused on professional development of Latin America in the Seattle area. Sorry, Latin American women in the Seattle area. How are you trying to pay it forward with other Latinas and use your privilege for good? And what should others do to help?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, I do think when you are exposed to these different challenges and perspective, paying it back is just as important as embracing your own American dream, right? Because to me, it's all about the journey and how do you bring others with you on that journey. So with that, I created the Latinas Circle, that today is a network, when I moved to Seattle, because I found that we have so much resources and community for connecting women in general, but I couldn't find like anything specifically for Latinas, right? And we have unique challenges and other differences. And if you add the immigrant layer into that, like the compounding effect is kind of like difficult to navigate sometimes. So with that, what we are doing through the Latinas Circle network, to give you some examples, is we host every year some equal pay day, sessions and events where we bring sponsors, and we have got, we have representation from government and also policymakers, because our hope is not only to bring awareness on what is the situation and how the pay gap is affecting us Latinas like the most, right? With 54 cents for every $1 that man earns in the US, but also is to bring policymakers and government together to kind of like bring light to these issues, and with the hope to take some action, and also send some strong some call to action that something needs to be kind of like done here. We also focus on the opportunity gap as a whole, and because I always say the pay gap is the outcome, but actually the opportunity gap is the input, right? What I mean to that is like Latinas, we don't usually have the same opportunities, right? To getting into those, we don't have those opportunities to have those resources, or to have, put into those situations or opportunities that actually are going to open the doors for us, to let us show all the skills and the competency that we bring to the table. So something else that we do is to promote mentoring and sponsoring efforts, because we believe that if we mentor each other and we have people who are already in leadership positions and have the influence kind of like advocating for all of us, it's going to make a difference. So something that we are doing is, some of us who already have some connections or who already kind of like made it to certain positions, we invite colleagues, and they don't have to be necessarily Latinos or, people of color. There could be also white men, for example, who are on those positions and kind of like are acting as allies and advocates, to bring us together. So in short, 3 things. We are promoting and bringing learning development for our Latinas to kind of like provide on the skills and help them to keep boosting their, competencies, if you will. The second thing that we are doing is we are connecting with sponsors and mentors and people who are already on those positions of influence, to kind of like make our Latinas visible to them, and to let them showcase all the things that they need, that they have to offer. And the third thing that we are doing is continue building awareness on the things that need to change and what we need to create that change together.
I love it. Those are great ideas, and I think people should try to implement them across their organizations. So I'm going to throw out a question to all of you guys as a group, and you can each kind of come to answer it in different ways. Number one is, what do you wish, if you could pass on this information to the next person who's going to immigrate here, what do you wish you could tell them that you wish you knew when you showed up? And number two is, for people who are hiring someone who's an immigrant and it's their first time hiring somebody who's an immigrant, what do you wish that they didn't do to help you feel more included?
Well, I can go first, Ashish. I don't know if there's any order you want to go in.
No.
Okay. So, I mean, I think you're touching on what I was putting down as my sort of action step, and I'll just bring it up here. For me, I would say to everybody who, is trying to make, build a life in America, realize their version of the American dream would be to assimilate and adapt. Number one is assimilation. So coming into a new country, it's about learning what it takes to be successful here. Assimilation is also about building your own network. Laura talked a lot about networking, creating awareness. And so assimilation is to try and understand how can you successfully, how can you be successful in the new country you're going to? In this case, we're talking about America, from wherever you're coming in. So assimilate rather than try and preserve. And assimilation is also about finding that balance between what do you want to preserve from your own heritage, your own traditions, but at the same time assimilating to a new culture and a new country that is embracing you and welcoming you. The second part of it is to then adapt. And in my own career, I had three significant switches. I started out because of my education as an engineer, and then went from an engineer and did engineering for many years, and then moved into IT. And from IT, I'm in software sales today. And those are quite different, but they all are somewhat connected as well. It speaks to how technology is moving, how everything is moving at such a fast pace that if you're not adaptable, and if you try to stay very, very fixated in what what you kind of build roots around and aren't willing to adapt to whatever comes your way in terms of opportunity, you might shortchange yourself. And so assimilation and adapting is what I think is really, really important.
It's great. It's funny. I always have a saying that we talk about with consciously unbiased, and I would say, if you want to overcome bias, and this is probably applies to everything in the world at this point in terms of assimilation, ultimately bias is a struggle between curiosity and fear of the unknown. And if you let curiosity win and expose yourself to people or things that you think are different, you'll realize we have a lot more in common than different, and that's how we actually get to know each other.
That's right.
And so I think when you move here, you have to let curiosity. The curiosity of why you came here is also needs to be the curiosity of why how to assimilate here.
Sure.
Trishan, thoughts?
No, I think these are all very good points, right? So, I think to Mebs's point, right? I mean, you have to adapt to your, new environments. Basically, your culture shock is a big deal, right? With immigrants, right? And you ask yourself, okay, how am I gonna make it here, right? And while adapting to the current environment, what I would also say is, it's always good to have a very good support system, right? So very similar to what Laura is doing, right? Build a network that you can lean on, and really get there, achieving your American dream. That's very important. Right. The other thing that I will say is, look, this is never an easy journey, right? And I think when people say I want to achieve the American dream, I think they're missing a couple of words in that sentence, right? It needs to be, I want to work my butt off and then achieve the American dream, right? A lot of people forget the middle component, right? And the reality of it is, because they miss that, sometimes people fail. And I've seen a lot of folks go back to their native countries, Ash, right? And it's not because, it's mainly because they've given up hope. They feel that they can have a better life in their native countries,
Yeah.
right? But what people tend to forget also is all the sacrifice and all the troubles that they went through to get to America, right? For me, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the folks here, but for me, once I got here, there was no turning back, right? Either I had to make it, right? Figure out how to make it. And, part of the deal was you go through your, the different hurdles, right? I mean, racism to, financial issues to, I mean, you talk to students and they'll tell you with all these different visas and whatnot, right? The amount of fees you have to pay is ridiculous. I mean, starting off when when kids come here, at least for some Sri Lankan families, the parents take loans, and they have so many financial burdens, and then you get here, while your parents are still paying their loans, you end up having more loans, right? Just paying for the rest of the journey for you to get that American dream. So the struggle is real, right? There's a lot of hard work. Yes, you have to adapt to the situation, but make the best of your what's around, and figure out a way to get to your final destination. That is achieving the American dream. So just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's kind of funny. It's also the hard work also includes actually doing everything yourself, right?
Yeah.
From washing dishes to like getting your laundry done and some other things that you might have been used to when you didn't come here. You have to take on that responsibility as well. And
Hey, Ashish, before you move
your
on,
thoughts on this too.
What?
go ahead.
Anyone, Laura, you want to go next?
Yes, I would love to build on. or sorry, did you call someone else?
I did, but she didn't hear, so you can go ahead and we'll come back to her.
Are you sure? I'm happy to.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just think a lot of the things that Mebs and Trishan said resonated with me, and I want to build on two specific points they touch on. I couldn't agree more about it's about learning new things, but I also want to add the unlearning piece, right? Because you cannot possibly learn new things if you don't first unlearn some others. And I can tell you, from coming from different cultures, as a Mexican, I had to unlearn so many things and require me a change of mindset to really kind of be able to adapt into this new culture somehow, and also kind of to understand how could I make the most of my strengths, because sometimes it's not the same, right, as when you live in your country. So that's the first point that I want to make. The second one is I really like that Trishan spoke about the sacrifices that we have to make, because I always say, hey, how much the American dream is costing you, right? Because we have to think about that. Yes, as immigrants, I believe we are coming here because we want to do better, because we have desire for more. This is who we are. However, I also think sometimes we missed how much is costing us, and how much is costing us in terms of our physical, mental health, how many things we're leaving behind. We are lacking a support system, maybe. So it's also important that we understand where I am today, and are the same things that I wanted before the same things that I want today, and the same things that will help me and my family, or the people that is important to me to get where I need to be, in all senses. It's not only about making more money and having a successful career, but it's also about having a successful personal life and peace of mind. So that's something else that I wanted to add. And finally, I think the leap that I wanted to close this comment is, I don't think we need to let anyone to define who we are. We need to define that for ourselves. And the way that we do it is sharing our stories with others, And also, don't forgetting that the American dream is about the journey, it's not about the outcome. So at the end, how do you live that journey? What are you doing in the path as, reaching or becoming like that, achieving that American dream is what you are. So I tend to always remind people, think about the journey, not the outcome.
I love it. And it's also something to remember is thinking about the risk reward and if it makes sense for you, because it's not always for everybody. Adriana, I'd love to hear your thoughts around this. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yes, well, I'm diversity and inclusion in the United Nations, right? And if you look at everybody that is American or New Yorker, they all come from immigrants, right? Their parents were all immigrants. So what are they talking about hiring immigrants or not? We are all one. We are all one, right? We are all human beings.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have, I don't see color, I don't see nationality, I love accents. I just see human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in America, there is a country from immigrants. It's like Argentina. Argentina is a country of immigrants, right? We all in Argentina, we all have Italians ancestors, Jewish, Polish ancestors, German Nazis, German Jewish. We have everything there. And we are all Argentinians, and nobody starts with immigrants or not. At the end of the day, we are all human beings, right? We are all one, right? And if you think about it, everybody came from the ancestors were all immigrants too, especially here in New York, right? If you start thinking like, so I don't see distinctions of hiring an immigrant or not. I'm very open-minded, and really I see human beings and people that are working hard to give them a chance and trust and think out of the box. And the future is very different. I see the younger generations. I have 3 daughters, right? They are teenagers. They see no color. They see no gender. And dare you dare to label someone, right? So the future is very different. And the younger generations are really, really more diverse, more inclusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in New York. In other cities, in other things, there's a totally different story, right? And for the immigrants is go for the 99. That's what I always did in my life. I went always for the 99 no's. So when you go for something, you're looking for a job, you look for 99 no's. You look to making a change, 99 no's, but never give up, never give up. Like look for the 99 no's, right? And also, I'm Latina, so I have the privilege of being Latina. And when you're Latina in America, you have access to all the Latinos, right? So this is what my daughters tell me, right? My daughters speak English as an American. So they say, Mama, we have access to the subgroup of Latinos in America. It's like living a parallel world and universe where everybody helps each other, because it's true. Everybody gives you the shortcut. Everybody makes like a help or here or that. So it's very interesting, and I'm very open-minded, right? And I'm very focused on the diversity and inclusion, including people with disabilities, LGBTQI+, neurodiverse, right? So I'm talking about a high level of diversity that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, and also looking at the next generations, the future generations, right? These are our children's, and yeah, they see the world totally different than what we see, right? So I have more that approach of the entire world, and diversity in the UN, and diversity also through the new generations are so different than what we learned, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I see many things through that lens. So I just wanted to give another perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. I love it. And what's your hope for your daughters? Here.
My hope for my daughters is that they are happy with what they do, right? And that they are respected. But if people don't respect them, that they make people respect them, right? That they have a voice. And that's the most important thing, that everybody has a voice. right? This regardless of where they come from, of the accents, if they speak the language or not, right? Because I'm also talking about people that have disabilities that they don't speak, right? With signs language, they also have a voice and they need to be respected, right?
Absolutely.
So also people with neurodiverse, right? We need to embrace the neurodiversity that is out there, and they also have a voice and they need to be respected. And they need a place in this world, and they also need a place in our workforces. Because this is also the new generation that comes with a lot of more sophisticated softwares, right?
No, absolutely. Transparency is key as well. Rue, what were your thoughts on what you wish people knew when you first came here?
Yeah, so based on our current discussion, there were two things that stuck with me. One is what Mebs actually said, assimilation. Something you have to remember is for me, when I came here, for my parents, their goal was me absorbing the education. But you're not just going to absorb the education, you're going to absorb everything that comes with it, the culture. For example, I got married to a German citizen when I came here. I mean, I never thought when I left Sri Lanka that I would ever choose a partner from I mean, they speak a different language, not even American English, but German. So, that's because I was open to everything that came with it. It wasn't just the education. And I have a daughter now, and here we are speaking of diversity. I have a Sri Lankan passport, my daughter has an American passport, and my husband has a German passport. We are a family with three different passports.
Yeah.
And the other thing that stuck with me is what Trishan mentioned, the hard work. I mean, we speak about American dream, but there is a lot of hard work that has to go into it to achieve that dream. When I first came here, like Trishan said, I'm from Sri Lanka, from a middle class family. Paying that international student fees was a struggle. So I worked 20 hours on campus, which was allowed for the international students. On top of that, I volunteered at a research lab and a student health center because I knew I wanted to go into biological sciences on top of taking a full load of classes. And getting A's was so important because you're trying to protect that GPA that's affecting the next step. So then take those opportunities, work hard, and my research volunteer opportunity turned into a paid opportunity as a research technician. And I was able to get a merit-based scholarship, so that helped me with the tuition. So what I want to highlight there is, assimilation, hard work. It isn't just a dream that gets landed in your hands, but you have to work towards it. If you work hard, you can make that dream a reality.
Absolutely. I love those points. So I'm going to cede my moderator hat for a second and see if there's anything you guys want to throw out to the group as questions that we should all answer.
Ashish, I want to make a comment before we move into questions.
Mhm.
I'd like, the audience to take away, and even our panel, if they agree, that, Trishan used the word hard work. Rue talked about it as well. And then we talked about how expensive it is. I'd like everyone to sort of maybe frame it as an investment. So take away what you're hearing here and what we are sharing, but then make that your investment in how you want your future and your American dream to unfold. And I just wanted to sort of change the perspective on how it could be looked upon versus feeling like it's a daunting thing that's facing people when they come into this country.
I love that. I love the way you're repositioning because it is an investment in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Trishan, you have any questions for us? No.
I don't know if he can hear you.
Trishan, can you hear us?
What was it? Yeah, no, sorry, I was on mute. I'm sorry, you asked if I had any questions for the group?
Yeah, just in case I missed something that we want to highlight, I would love to hear it. Like if you guys have questions that you want answered across the group, make sure we didn't miss anything.
No, I mean, I don't have any questions for the group. But once again, I mean, this is a great panel. I'm privileged to see, other people, who have achieved their dreams and are just coming together to help, those who are in the same journey as us, I think more, what I would like to relate to the folks who are listening and watching this is, feel free to reach out, right? If you need to, if you want to ask questions, if you want to understand, a little bit more in detail on what we did, right? What worked for us, what didn't work for us, you know, um, I think, it's our duty to help, right? And I'm more than happy to help. If you want to reach out to me and ask me questions, I see, I go back to, having an ecosystem, support system is crucial, right? And I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to help you get a piece of the American dream, making the American dream yours. So feel free to reach out.
No, definitely. And I think one of the other key things we probably haven't discussed yet is the motivation. So why did you pursue the American dream in the first place? Because I think if you think about, I remember Steve Jobs' speech at Stanford University, we talked about we all end up in the same place and we all start at the same place, but it's a journey, not the destination, and how you make the most of it. And so I think part of the motivation to take on pursue this dream is life experiences and challenges, and how do you overcome them, and making your life more enriching, not just from a financial standpoint, just from a whole experience standpoint. So I'd love to hear why each of you chose to chase the American dream.
Yeah. I mean, look, it can be, so, a lot of folks who are watching us or listening to us, they might be interested in other countries as well, or they're starting this journey in other countries. It can be the Australian dream. It can be the, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I think whatever it is, right, I think what we need to understand is, don't take your eye off the goal. Make sure you have a solid plan in achieving it, and stay humble right throughout the process, right? And, one thing that we didn't cover is, when we leave our countries and we come here, right, we must learn to bring the good and keep the bad behind, right? Like, for example, even in our countries, wherever we're from, there's racism, between, religions, or it might be with different castes. Leave all that when you're coming here, because you got enough baggage to deal with here, right? and just stay humble. So regardless of where the dream is, wherever you are, just stay focused and try and achieve it.
Yeah, I think building on that, Ashish, and what Trishan said, and we talked about this earlier about what is our definition of the American dream. And a lot of us said that it's really our own dream. And how do we want to realize our own dream? And no matter where life takes us, my own crossed multiple countries. I have, I have a lot of sprinkling of Indian and African. And then, living in Canada, you pick up some of the differences and nuances between Canada and the US. So, it's made me richer in terms of cultural diversity, openness, awareness, etc. It starts first and foremost with your own dream, and to the point Trishan made as well, you have to stay true to what you want to achieve, and then I use the word adapt to whatever life gives you, whether it's a country and country related sort of constraints, or it could be, cultural constraints, what have you, and how do you adapt to still try to the best of your ability to realize the dream that you set out, right at the beginning. And I think if people stay true to that, so they're grounded in what their dream is, then they'll be able to achieve it, whether it's in America, it's elsewhere, and they'll find the best way to achieve that dream.
Absolutely. Rhea, your thoughts?
Sure. So, yeah, I think I have to highlight on the point of persistence, hard work. Those are the two things. Really, there are no shortcuts in the end. You really have to stay focused on the light at the end of the tunnel, and put in the hard work is how I would like to leave this conversation. Yeah.
And Laura?
Yeah, a couple of things here. It's interesting because sometimes it's not about pursuing something as much as it is running from something. And in my case, and so many immigrants actually are not coming for the American dream, but are coming because they need to cover some basic needs, right? To give you a specific example, in Mexico, it's not a surprise to say that there is so much violence towards women specifically, right? We find women killed every day for any reason in the streets, right? Just lying out there. And in my case, I couldn't even think about I have a daughter now, right? I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a life. And I had so many friends who have been killed because they walk alone in the streets, because they were driving alone in their car, because they dress in some way. So when you think about it, it's not even about making more money. It's not even about pursuing a career. It's about staying alive. So that's why my husband and I made the decision to move here, because we wanted to be able to take a walk without thinking if we were going to be killed, if I was going to be raped. So that's why we came to here. And now that I have a daughter, I just have peace of mind thinking, yes, there are so many things going on, but at least I know if she's taking a walk in the street, chances are she's not going to be raped and I wouldn't be hearing from her, right? So when we think about that, it's important, right? Because I think the American dream starts with so many, like different reasons, and you do something about it. So with that, um, I think when I was able to come here and pursue a career for myself and made a future for myself, and now when I see my daughter, the message that I think is think big, act small. That's what has been working for me. I have big, big dreams. I'm an ambitious Latina. I have desire for more, not only for me or for my family, but for everyone that is experiencing really unique challenges that I cannot even imagine because I'm privileged, right? So, but I believe if we have big dreams and we act small, sometimes it's all what it takes, one step at a time, and one day, hard work and being intentional about it, because I believe it's not about taking a step and taking action. It's about being intentional about it and what are the type of actions you are taking to get wherever you want to go. That is really important. So, and I keep saying, and I will continue saying it, bring others with you. And yes, we are all, hopefully we can be equal, like all together and treat as a human some days. But yes, there are some unique differences that we need to pay attention to. And yes, we need to bring equity to the conversation because we are not there yet. And we need to pay attention on what is the journey for different people and what are the things that we need and what are the resources that we need to bring all together, not just to continue building awareness, but also to continue taking action. So think big, act small, be humble as well. Thank you so much.
I love it. Adriana, your thoughts? I think you're on mute again. Okay. All right. So I think, we're getting close to the close. And so one of the things I like to talk about is microprogressions. I think many of you heard about it on our different podcasts and LinkedIn Live. So microprogressions are small action steps that we call consciously unbiased. It gives individuals the ability to sort of make the environment more inclusive. So I'd like each of you to kind of give us an idea of a small action step that we could help as workers and friends and family to help build more belonging for immigrants in the workplace and beyond. Mebs, you want to go first?
I'm sure. Well, I sound like a broken record. I mentioned my action steps. I really think, we've talked about so many really, really good points here. I like the humility part of things. I think my action step, without not belaboring, is again to, the two words I used, assimilate, adapt. But I think in there, after listening to everybody, I would want to add sacrifice and investment. So know that coming in, this is not an easy journey. But if you're trying to, whether you're going away from something like Laura talked about, or you're coming into something consciously like Rue talked about, it's about setting your mind and then be willing to make that investment, whatever it is, hard work. It may, if you have pursuing a business venture, it might be an initial financial investment. Whatever the investment is, make the investment, assimilate versus try and, bring your baggage, like Trishan referenced, into your new world, because that's not going to help you. It's just going to weigh you down. So, and then adapt to what you get. In my personal journey, which I shared, it didn't go in a straight line. What I had set out as my career goal and all did not go in a straight line, but I had an overarching family goal I was trying to achieve, which is to better my family's life. Today, I have 2 kids that are out of college, that have graduated, who are pursuing good careers. And I was able to help make that happen, which was a much harder journey for me. And so I left their future in a better place, or at least gave them a better start. And that's what I would like everybody to take away.
Okay, love it.
I was going to add to that. What I would say is, if you are in a leadership position, make the environment of those around you so that they are tapped into their full potential. I was fortunate that the professors around me in college or in graduate school always pointed me towards, they don't tell you to do X, Y, and Z, but at least they opened up my eyes to different opportunities that I could pursue. It is easy for international students to think, oh, there are no scholarships for international students, but really there may be more need-based scholarship for local students. But if you're a foreign student applying for merit-based scholarship or opportunities, if you are a woman, there are organizations that will have opportunities specifically geared towards women. Or if you're from a minority group, there are opportunities. So open up those opportunities to those around you, students and your direct reports, so that they can be tapped into their full potential.
Love it. Laura, you want to go next?
Yeah. Do you mind repeating the question for me? It's like, what is our message, like call to action that comes?
Yeah, so we have this thing called microprogressions, and it's small action steps that me as an individual can do to make the environment, work, or at home or in community better. So what's one microprogression that you think people can easily do to help make immigrants feel more included and belonging?
I love that question for so many reasons. I think there are so many things that we can do, but I like to start with two things. Make sure to bring awareness and continue speaking about these issues or situation every time that you can, and every time you get an opportunity to highlight this when immigrants in this case or others are not in the room. Like, I think if we use our voice to amplify these messages for those who needs to listen and continue kind of like gently, if you will, pushing, it can create a lot of help. But also, when you are with other immigrants, make sure that you are also helping to advocate for them, and also helping to kind of like bring light to situations that sometimes are difficult. Like, to give you an example, I remember, by the way, I want to say something. I call myself, I'm not a I'm not a citizen of US, not yet. I have a green card, but I'm not. And I like to call myself an American because let's remember, America is a continent. It's not only a country. So I just wanted to say, yes, I'm an American. No, I'm not a citizen of the US. So with that, I always like to say, kind of like, when I'm with someone who challenged, for example, like something like, hey, we cannot hire this person because, well, they don't have corporate experience or so and so. I always kind of like ask questions such as, okay, do you mean like they don't have corporate experience in US or they don't have corporate experience at all? Because those mean different things, right? So I just think like if we use our voice to make questions, to suggest things, to suggest others to check again their potential bias, it helps because you are not saying, hey, you are not doing this and that. You are actually making them questions that help them to reflect, and there is no way that they can say no. Or another example is like, hey, I see us investing in this and that, but I think the cost to invest for visas is not as much as we are investing in other efforts, and we need to bring more diverse talent, right? So what do you think about doing this change? So I think like kind of like going and asking those questions to the people who make decisions and just helping them to bring that perspective is an amazing way to be to kind of like start being those change makers, not only for our American dream, because I will continue saying it's not about only us and my American dream. It's about how do you pay it back and how do you make like an American dream for those who are not able to kind of like pursue it because they don't have the resources maybe.
I love it. Amazing ideas. Andrina, you're next. I think you're on mute.
If you have a leadership position, you can help others by giving perspective, hope, right?
Mhm.
And also teaching them the lessons learned that you had to learn the hard way, right? So these are the things. And be kind, work hard, treat everybody like a human being, regardless from they come from, regardless of socioeconomic background, right? And walk the talk, just walk the talk, be a role model, help. What I do, I'm also not only engaged with Latinas here, right? I coach and I do mentoring programs for younger women, especially in areas that are male dominated, and also in countries that are less fortunate than here, right? So the way of giving back for me is many-folded. I walk the talk. The immigrants that I get in contact, I always give hope and perspective, right? Also, I do mentoring for women in male-dominated areas, single moms, or different type of difficulties and minorities. I also have like foundation with my daughters that we create art and books for children, and the money we raise here, we send it to children in Argentina that are poor. So it's always remembering when we come from, right? So it's not only being here part. I also don't have the American passport because I work at the UN, so I don't have it. But my family, they are all Americans. My husband is German, right? But he's American, and my daughters are American and have other passports also. So I'm the one that I consider myself sort of a citizen of the world and also an advocate for it. But I advocate here in New York because many people are also here. Citizens of the world, and really here in New York you have diversity, right? You have really diversity. I don't know any other city that has more diversity than New York. So yes, be kind, work hard, inspire others, give a chance to others, be a role model, like, walk the talk, right? And also don't forget where you come from, and don't forget that everybody comes from immigrants, right? They might not have an accent in South America, but if you ask 3 or 4 questions, they are Irish, they were Italian, they were Jewish, and they escaped the Holocaust. So everybody came from another part, right?
Absolutely.
So it's that's what my conception of we are all one, right? And I don't see, and also the approach that I have with people. I have always a very different approach with many people. So it's sort of funny how these American moms, they call me, say, hey, Andreina, I need a solution. And you always think out of the box. So yes, I have a different point of view. And I hope that the future is also like that the next generations are unfortunately suffering a lot from this pandemic, but they are also learning a lot to be more diverse, more inclusive, and be more respectful of the environment, right? So yeah, so thank you for letting me part of this panel. I love Consciously Unbiased. I am a big fan, and yeah, and thank you for all the panelists. It's an honor to be with you here.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. It's not in our honor. Shashan, last but not least, I'd love to hear your microprogression.
Yeah. So first of all of these points are fantastic. What I will add is, I think as immigrants and as leaders, right? It's our duty to share our culture with our managers and peers and employees. Um, you know, look, you're embracing the American culture. You're planting your feet here, and absorbing everything America has to offer. I think as immigrants, we also need to share our cultures with the people around us as well. Take that initiative, educate your managers, and managers should show a little interest in understanding what the backgrounds of your employees. So I think that is very important. That shows that you care about your employees, and that just makes it a better workplace and a diverse workplace. So I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you for having me on this panel discussion. I really enjoyed the conversation with all of y'all, and look forward to doing some impactful stuff with immigrants as well as anyone out there. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That's a wrap. We really enjoyed the session, and we're honored to have you guys here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ash.
Bye.
Bye.